Hey there, the name is Cam, and these are my androids. Peaceful, metallic, and unskilled automatons, but today that all changes as they are going to be helping me harvest some organs. Hopefully the vital type. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm afraid that peace is no longer an option unless they're willing to give up their organs peacefully, which I doubt. Now, realistically, I'm not much of a fighter, but I do have a crazy good medical and intellectual skill, which will be perfect for harvesting organs and researching the technology that we need for a more non-lethal approach. Starting here in the desert means that there's a pretty severe lack of resources like wood to build with, so we're going to have to start tearing apart some old ruins and begin using those materials to build ourselves a nice little office. Maybe not exactly similar to your family doctor or perhaps your pediatrician growing up, but more akin to the doctor that you might meet in a back alley wearing a trench coat. That sort of thing. Ah, sweet dreams of intestines and, more importantly, profits. But all this dreaming is making me rather hungry. It's a good thing that our friendly neighborhood androids are proficient hunters, and by that I mean they could stomp an iguana to death as a team. That way I could butcher it and cook it up on a campfire later on in the evening. Now, technically, because I'm a psychopath, I really wouldn't mind just sticking the entire lizard down into my gullet and swallowing it whole, but we get more out of it this way. Now then, it's time to turn some lights on around here. You can't have surgeries in the dark, so we are mining some steel and also some compacted machinery. That way we can build ourselves a wind turbine. Not only will it be powering lights in my doctor's office, but it'll also be powering up a pod so that our androids can charge. I can't have my little mechanical helpers powering down mid-operation, and we would end up building a nice bed. Now, right now, I'll probably be napping on this, but once we finally get a patient, I think I'll use it as an operating table. Speak of the devil, a visitor from a nearby tribe, no less. I would highly doubt that they'll even notice that she's missing. Yoink. You and I have business to discuss, little missy. Looks like she had a knife and a pistol on her person, as well as some medicine, so I suppose it's a good thing we didn't ask her permission to see if she wanted to donate her organs for our business. That medicine will come in handy, though. She was basically everything we needed in one, medicine and organs. So we went ahead and took out one of her kidneys. Hello there, my sweet metallic flavored little money bag. You are gonna make us a good bit of silver, no doubt. I probably should have waited a little bit longer, but I decided to load it up along with some other things I wanted to sell off, just a few little scraps of leather we didn't need, and I headed to the nearest Outlander settlement. As you might imagine, I don't plan on telling them where this product came from. They would end up offering us 460 silver for it. Not too shabby, if I say so myself. Probably would have been better if I had a higher social skill, but oh well. They also didn't have any non-lethal weapons, which is really what I was coming to buy, so that's also unfortunate. Time to head home. After returning home, I started deconstructing plenty of ruins in the area along with my little squad of android helpers. That way we can really make our doctor's office larger, and I can create a proper home for myself as well, because sleeping next to the patient is a little bit risky. Even after taking out their organs, they might feel like trying to kill you for whatever reason. Couldn't imagine why. Look at that smile on her face. You know she's happy here, getting 3 meals a day and using the toilet in a bucket and having her kidney stolen. She wasn't the only one that had it good, though, as my androids and myself would end up making myself a nice little concrete house. It's kind of small and shabby, but I don't need anything too fancy. Our construction process would be impeded when we were attacked by a waster pirate, though, wielding a club and a knife. Now, we take threats very serious around these parts, so the android squad closed in on her and started pounding on her head until she eventually took a little nap in the sand. Don't worry, ma'am, we're not going to kill you, though. There is a fate much worse in store for you and those precious organs you've been growing for us. On the bright side, though, you get this nice, cozy little spot to sleep in on the floor. Speaking of organs, though, it looks like our other friend is ready for yet another harvest of one of her lungs. Look at that, an operation as smooth as butter. She didn't even notice. Since we have our business founded here, and it is now operational, it's about time we started planting some food for all of us to eat, including our patients, of course. We needed a crop that could grow fast and nourish them quickly. That way we could continue our business, if you know what I'm saying. So we ended up planting plenty of rice. We would then use up a good bit of our resources to build ourselves a proper little operation room for each of our patients, and this way also they don't get together when they're not sedated and try to break out. After that, we would also build ourselves a proper research room as well. Now, with our research table and what have you finally ready, we could start on our first project. Something simple, like batteries. That way we don't have to worry about the wind not blowing one day. And while I'm working on this extensive research, I would end up sending one of my mechanical menaces out to the Outlanders to trade off some more organs. Upon their arrival, they would end up selling off the lung that we had recently harvested, and we ended up seeing that they had a pump rubber shotgun. Meaning, of course, that it is a non-lethal weapon, so of course we ended up buying it. This new weapon would be perfect for taking out any raiders that come to attack us while keeping their more vital parts intact. By the time we returned, we had also finished up our research into batteries, meaning we can go ahead and build ourselves one and get that bad boy charged up. That way, if tomorrow, as mentioned, the wind isn't blowing quite as hard, we shouldn't have any issue keeping our lights on. And now that we're able to depend on our power grid a bit more, I think it's time that we start expanding our office as well with a proper kitchen and food storage area. That way we can ensure patients are always well fed and within a timely manner. Plenty of rice soup and fried rice and rice cakes, boiled rice. That's about all we got, really. Sometime later, though, it was time for our very first patient to be discharged, and by that I mean we ended up harvesting her heart, and she could no longer live, obviously. Okay, sure, she's dead, and that is quite, unfortunate, I guess, but on the bright side, we were about to sell her heart to some android traders for some money, or so I thought. But instead, we ended up purchasing ourselves yet another Tier 1 android, and this one knows how to cook, so he'll be perfect in our kitchen, and also for cleaning and hauling, of course. With most of our chores automated, this would free me up for more research. Right now, it's machining and then gunsmithing, and we're basically trying to make a line straight towards non-lethal weapons, but it is going to take a little while. In the meantime, while I'm researching, though, our army of androids would end up creating some proper storage facilities for many of our resources and things like that, especially medicine, and also maybe some organs can be tossed in here, as we just kind of have them lying all about in the floors after harvest. And as you can see, this isn't the most sanitary floor ever. We would also get to test out our rubber shotgun on yet another attacker who quickly fell to its might. There, my little blood bag. No need to try to crawl away. You won't get very far anyhow. You're in good hands. We could no longer really use any of the resources that we're getting from the ruins in the area, so we wrapped up our stone cutting production. That way we can build another office if we need to. I'd really like to build a specific place for all of our patients, as well as maybe a nicer home for myself. But regardless of what we decide to do in terms of expansion, one thing is for sure, we need resources. But I almost forgot about the main premise and title of this video, so we went in and we started harvesting a few kidneys and lungs and other vital organs. After quite some time, we could finally begin on our research into non-lethal weapons, which is, once again, going to take a while, but it will be well worth it, trust me. While researching, we also started building some plain leather floor mats that will keep us all from tracking sand inside the building, and most importantly, inside of our patients' rooms, as, you know, we don't really want to the sand in there. We're doing medical procedure. You understand. Not only were operations top priority, but of course safety was as well. And with all that stone that we were cutting earlier, we ended up building a great big wall all around the area here, and our little operation, I suppose we could call it, our base, of course. You'll notice that I'm leaving open a pretty large opening to the left side there, and we'll get to that in just a second. Something that goes hand in hand with that opening is the fact that we finished up non-lethal weapons research, and we are now open to non-lethal tools. Now, the reason that this is important is because it's going to allow us to create non-lethal turrets. I think you see where I'm going. But in case you don't, let me just kind of spell it out for you. I'm building a kill box. Now, this isn't actually a kill box, it's more of a knockout box. As people come in, we're going to put them to sleep, and we're going to capture them and steal their organs. I haven't built one of these things in 2-3 years on the channel because, well, I hate them. Sure, kill boxes are great. They're extremely efficient, but they're extremely boring as well. They take all the fun and excitement out of things. So this is a one-time deal. Whoopsie daisy, I almost forgot the premise and title of this video. Give me those sweet, succulent lungs, you. Don't worry, you can trust me. I have a surgical mask on, see? Time for us to go out and sell a few more of these organs. This time we had quite a few lungs and kidneys. About 2 of each, actually. Not that many. Even so, though, we'll still be making a lot of money. Enough for us to actually begin buying some stun batons for all of our androids as well. Not only that, but for some ranged weaponry, we would also end up buying some tear gas. Now, technically, we can make these ourselves now, but it's just easier to buy them. Now, look at that. Don't they look mighty dapper? Quite the little riot force. We should come up with a name for them, like the, Knockout Brigade, maybe? Something like that. But alas, it's time for 2 more of our patients to be discharged from our facility. Another job well done. Get well soon, folks. Funny enough, not too long after that, we ended up finishing up non-lethal tools research, meaning now we can build ourselves some non-lethal turrets, which realistically for us just means some taser turrets, as it's the only one that we really have the resources to make currently. They're just some large turrets that are going to shock the enemy onto their arses to knock them out, and most importantly doing little to no damage to the parts that we require. Next up for our research, though, is going to be one that we should have done quite a while ago, if I'm being honest with you, and that is going to be sterile materials, eliminating bacteria anywhere within the room, essentially, and making our job much, much easier. As we're working on this research project, we would begin a new construction project, with that being some independent patient rooms. Currently, we only have about 2 or so we needed more anyhow. Of course, as mentioned, these are independent, meaning that we are going to have 1 prisoner per. Obviously, we don't want them all teaming up and escaping, and you'll notice that the rooms are quite comfortable for the most part, as we want our guests to be nice and homely, I suppose, except for the operating table that they'll be sleeping on day and night, but that's beside the point. We did end up building sterile flooring. Technically, we could have put in some sterile walls as well, but I don't know, we didn't really have that much silver at the moment, so whatever. But by far the largest issue we currently face is we have all of these rooms, but they're vacant. Now we're talking. Somebody to fill those rooms, eh? With plenty more organs to fill our pockets full of silver. This was really the first time that we got to see our new kill box or stun box in full effect. And as you can see, it would appear that it works wonders. Matched up, of course, with our androids throwing in some tear gas and beating folks down with their batons here and there. Not a single soul was taken, although we would end up capturing many of them. I just obviously mean that they didn't die. I must say, though, that our stun box appears to work a little too well, as I hadn't really accounted for all these people being taken to be harvested of their organs. And though I am quite grateful for our full bounty, a little too full, as we're having to stuff some in the old rooms, it would seem that one of them is going to be left outside for the buzzards, after we strip him of his gear, of course. With such a spontaneous growth in the population of our patients, we need more food to sustain our new little organ incubators, so we planted a much larger field of rice to the southern section of our walls here. Unfortunately, it looks like eventually we're going to need to expand out this way a bit, but for now it's just whatever. Let's hope some desert fires don't take out our crops. Oopsie daisy, did I almost forget the premise and title of this video? You wish. We are harvesting them organs, baby, on a actually pretty often schedule, unfortunately for the patients, but very fortunate for our wallets. Quite often we would end up having to go out to trade with Outlanders and also the androids, but sometimes their caravans would come here, which saved us some legwork. We would end up purchasing a good bit of medicine from them damn near every trip. Especially nowadays with more patients incubating organs for us, we needed more medicine. Occasionally, they would also have some pretty interesting non-lethal weapons for us, like a syringe gun. Kind of like a tranquilizer gun. You shoot somebody, they pass out, you steal their heart. That's just how it is. And I don't mean that metaphorically. Weapons like this and rubber shotguns and what have you will be perfect for our and the android's arsenal. This is a time period that I like to refer to as a glorious, our glorious harvest, okay? We were going back and forth ripping out organs, not literally, we're actually quite precise with a scalpel, and we were just kind of waiting for them to heal up from these incisions. Once they did, we would come in and take more of their organs. And they rarely ever even had a stray insult for us. Okay, well, occasionally they actually were trying to break out of their prison cells, their homes, I mean. But after our androids came in, started beating them in the noggin a few times with the old stun batons and chucked a few canisters of tear gas into their rooms, and they were feeling right as rain. Yes, sir, indeed. A little bit of the old spicy gas mixed with some cayenne pepper, or whatever the hell they put into this stuff, and they were much more cooperative and even a bit nicer once they woke up. Couldn't imagine why. And we had so many satisfied customers and patients even. They were always leaving with a smile on their face because, well, they were sedated when we removed their hearts, but so many of them, in fact, that they were lining up outside our walls. Well, stacked up, but speaking of stacked, we had 2 shelves that were solely dedicated to body parts, and they were completely stacked to the brim, literally, with hearts and lungs and kidneys and maybe the occasional liver in there as well. The problem is, we're so backed up because, well, we have customers, but we have to go out to deliver or wait for them to come here. If only there were some type of galactic trade in orbit around the— Wait a minute, I have an idea! Damn near immediately we started working on a comms console as well as an orbital trade beacon. That way we can go about doing some galactic trade. Yes, this business is going intergalactic, baby. We chase the almighty dollar, baby, even if it's floating around in the stars. All we had to do was contact the Orbital Traders Hub and also put up a small fee of about 500 or so silver, and we could get trade ships from this galaxy 2 or 3 galaxies over, anybody and everybody that wanted organs, and there were a lot of buyers. Don't believe me, eh? We had an exotic goods trader as our first client coming in to purchase some of these organs. The thing is, even they couldn't take all of the organs that we had in our stockpile. These poor bastards, and I do mean poor, literally could only afford 5 human hearts. Oh, blech. Let's hope that we get some more better financially endowed clients in the future, but for now we'll take your almost 4,000 silver, I suppose. So much of this money, it really begs the question what we should do with it all. Personally, I'm thinking that maybe we should try to reinvest it back into the business, purchase maybe some more non-lethal weapons or resources, of course, like medicine that we're going to need. Or perhaps we end up purchasing more androids with it. There's always the chance that we could just research that. More than a chance, it's definitely a possibility, a guarantee, and we just build our own. But since we have the money, it would be faster. Let me know what you think we should do in the comment section. But until then, I will see you later. Well, look what we have here. Oh, my friends, I hope that you're ready for a great, big, glorious harvest of organs today, because the doctor is in. And today our medical practice is going to be getting some pretty major upgrades. At the moment, we have many a patient who are, no longer in need of our services, and a couple who are desperately in need of our services, as one might imagine. But we have a pretty major issue beginning to persist. Not only do we have all these organs, which is fine and dandy, exactly what we want even, but we have nowhere to put them all. I ask you, what good is a box full of hearts if we don't have a shelf to store the box on? The answer, of course, is that it wouldn't do us any good at all, especially if we don't have an orbital trade beacon nearby to trade it to our new intergalactic friends. So, in the southwestern part of our little compound here, I suppose you could call it, we are building a storage facility. For now, it's only for organs, but I might become lazy later on and just kind of start storing everything down here. We'll see. But yeah, basically our main concern right now is finding a place to put all these precious, squishy little internal organs that are going to be making us a lot of moolah. And I think we've accomplished that for the time being. Speaking of, though, it's time for us to contact the orbital traders hub. We're actually going to be requesting a bulk goods trader. Not only will they be willing to purchase some of our precious organs, but they also have plenty of resources that we need, like components and plasteel. Why is that important? Let me show you. We have these super duper cool machines called auto cutters. Now basically what these are going to do is, maybe we have some patients who die after we remove their heart, cowards, but we still have their meat, we have their leather, and other things of theirs that might be useful to us that Cam doesn't really want to have to go in and cut open and whatnot himself, so these machines will do that for us. But they do require plasteel, something that we currently don't have a lot of. Now, while we're waiting on our orbital trader compadre to arrive around the planet's orbit, which is going to at least take a couple of days, I would say, we can go ahead and build our new butcher shop. No, that doesn't sound right. Our trash compactor room? Yeah, our disposal room, yeah! I mean, it is technically getting rid of the trash for us, so, you know. And now, something I did want to point out with this room, though, you'll notice that we are using stone doors. Now, this, of course, is normally a huge no-no, and I do it anyway sometimes because why not? And a lot of you guys were quick to point that out in the last video, but I do want to let you know that these half doors that we're using are not the same as full doors. As you can see, it does not matter what material they're made out of because it doesn't affect the opening speed, only on the half doors though. And with that being said, I did use half doors in most places, but in the most important, being the patient's rooms, I used full doors because they also have a larger hit point capacity. So yeah, but it is making it much slower for us to go in and out. Oopsie daisy. I did fix it though. Finally, the bulk goods trade ship would arrive and we immediately started selling off many of our livers, hearts, kidneys, and lungs. They also had just what the doctor ordered, just under 500 plasteel. That should do us for quite a while. We also purchased quite a few books to keep Cam entertained in his leisure hour, which is few and far between really. And we also got quite a few advanced components because I know we're going to need them. And thanks to the new addition of the Better Traders mod, this trader could easily afford our price. And I want to give a great big shout out to our friend Daniel Vogler 4033 for suggesting this mod, as it really is a game changer. To me, it also makes a lot more sense that intergalactic traders would have a lot of money, obviously, and they would easily be able to send us these resources and also a pretty penny. And it is now thanks to these resources that we could easily go about building our auto cutters, ready for action, and also for grinding up corpses. Speak of the devil, we might just have some corpses. It would seem that we have a great big group of tribal patients looking to obtain some of our medical services. We are more than happy to oblige. Please, one and all, come on down into our little laser hole here and take a quick little nap with some tear gas, and we'll be with you in a moment. I understand that this might seem a little unorthodox, but technically it is free healthcare We're not charging them anything, except for their internal organs, of course. And with that, it looks like our operating tables are going to be completely overflowing. Now, most of these patients were kind enough not to die out there in the kill box on us, but not all of them were so courageous, unfortunately. It would seem we have a couple of corpses to dispose of? Something. We're gonna stuff them down this meat grinder and turn them into paste. Now, technically, this does leave their clothing intact, even though it is tainted, of course, so we could technically wash it and sell it as well, but I don't know, we might do that. I'm mostly just focused on organs, meat, and leather at the moment, which is why this room is ice cold, and where we have these pallets coming in handy, where we're going to be stuffing all this human meat and leather so that we don't have to look at it. But you know, something that would be much more pleasant on our eyes, as well as our patients' eyes, and maybe, you know, try to keep them from breaking out every 5 minutes, is some nice artworks. And so we had one of our androids go ahead and start sculpting some. He was the best out of all of us, which was shocking, but whatever. Even an ugly sculpture of art is better than no is it? I don't know. Something I do know is that it is absolutely cold as shit. Well, I think we already went through one winter last episode, if I'm not mistaken. It actually wasn't all that cold. Maybe that was just fall? I don't know, but we need some heaters, by golly, Miss Molly. And so in between our daily checkups, and by that I mean a nice little incision under the old scalpel, if you get my drift, we would also be building heaters in the patient's rooms. After that, we started focusing our efforts on building something of an android bay, a place where they can all go to their charging stations to get powered back up, as well as a nice little spot where we can actually build more if and when we choose to do so, which is actually immediately. Yeah, our android Rise has the best crafting and smithing skills and techniques, which is unfortunate because he pretty well sucks at it, so this is going to take a while. That's okay though, because we had an uprising or two to put down with some syringes and a good old stun baton to the noggin. Unfortunately, my friend, it would seem that we've broken the bridge of your nose with our baton, but luckily your more expensive parts are well intact. Unfortunately for you. Another day or so later, and we finally have 2 new Tier 1 androids going by the names of Vic and Addison to add on to our workforce. And of course, they were extremely useful because as they were going about hauling and cleaning and constructing and yada yada yada, we could go about harvesting organs, which is the name of the game, and also the name of this video, of course. For the most part, operations were going very smoothly, but there was one teeny tiny issue. We couldn't really keep the lights on currently with the power generating methods that we were using, which is solar and wind. So the natural solution is to harvest power from the planet itself, kinda like how we harvest organs, but you know, on a much larger scale, a planetary scale. We're gonna make geothermal generators. That's the short of it. But of course, Rome wasn't built in a day, and we'll need to finish up the research first. Also taking a break here and there to do some trading with orbital traders, selling them all of the lungs and you know what we're selling them. We would also end up buying a cybernetic arm. Now, why did we do that? I don't know, because you can clearly see it says that it's only for Tier 4 and 5 androids. I guess I thought that I could add it on to Cam and turn him into a cyborg. It was a bit of an oopsie daisy. You know I love to make those. At the very least, we ended up getting plenty of medicine, which was crucial for our operations. Technically, we could of course use herbal medicine by growing it ourselves, and here and there we actually had done that, but the chance of completing the surgery properly wasn't as high. We could use glitter world medicine, but it's more expensive, so this seems like the best of both worlds. Not only were we trading with orbital traders though, we were still going out to trade with the Outlanders in the area, who still loved purchasing organs from us, as well as maybe a few other things. In case I forget though, I just wanted to mention that during this trade mission, we finished up our geothermal power research. Okay. And now we're good to go with selling off some human leather, as well as organs and other things. Now, what would the Outlanders want with human leather? Something tells me they're probably going to dye it another color and turn it into couches and jackets. That's what I'd do. Most interesting of all though, they had a couple of Tier 3 androids for sale, and though they did cost a pretty penny, we went ahead and purchased them. We would have preferred higher tier, but these 2 fellows appear to be as close to sentient life as we're going to get for the moment. In terms of androids, that is, of course. Now, since these 2 are actually higher tier, they also have some pretty decent different skill sets as well. In particular, Sean here has a good mining and medical skill. That gives me an idea. Our current set of androids help us with a lot of things, but the one thing that they don't help us with is surgeries, which is a really big part of this colony, as you could imagine. I think Sean here is going to make for a perfect doctor. And as for our other tier 3, going by the name of Isaac, since he has a much higher intelligence than the other tier 1 androids we currently have, I think we'll let him lead our little knockout brigade here, which actually needs a name. We have a couple of suggestions here from our friend Blue Cremata 6976 and Steven Shonda 110, and both of you have suggested the name of the Sandmen. Because we're in the desert and they put people to sleep, you get it? I love it. It's really good, and they will now forever be known as the Sandmen. Now with the Sandmen properly named though, we can go about working on that geothermal power that we so desperately need. Luckily, there is a geyser just out front of our compound. Now, we shouldn't have any further interruptions in our precious work. Even so, though, we did have another wrench thrown into our plans. Sean, the tier 3 android that we were going to let become a surgeon, has a mining arm, which is great for mining, but not so good for surgery, as I'm sure you could guess. This causes his manipulation to be reduced by 15%, which doesn't seem like much, but when it's such precise work, it's not very good. Sean, old buddy, old pal, I hate to tell you, but you can't be a surgeon with dog shit manipulation. We gotta get that fixed. Now, some of you might be screaming at the screen on your device saying, Rat Papa, what about that cybernetic arm you purchased earlier? Sounds like everything worked out perfectly. That's what I thought too. And then I remembered that Sean is tier 3, and this is only for tier 4 and 5. Damn it. So close, yet so far. Instead, I suppose we'll just sell it and make almost 4,000 silver, recovering a good bit of our loss. Realistically, we could take this same money and attempt to buy him another one, but there's never a guarantee if they're going to be on a trader's ship, so I think we need to have another solution for now. We're gonna do something we should have done a long time ago and start researching some very basic replacement parts. Now, these are not going to give him a full 100% manipulation, these types of parts, but they're better than what he currently has. In the meantime, while we're researching this technology, we would let Sean practice a little bit on taking out someone's heart with his mining arm. Not a good idea, but we did it anyways, and it went about as well as you would expect. It didn't take us very long at all, though, to finish up the replacement parts research, and then we had Rise, our tier 1 android, go ahead and start working on a proper hydraulic arm to replace the one that he previously had that was only for mining that I've been talking about for far too long. Very strangely, Rise had to be capable of doing doctoring with this for some reason, even though it only requires smithing. I don't know, but we did end up getting that hydraulic arm put on him, so we should be fine. Again, as mentioned, it's not as good as a cybernetic one by far, nor even the stock one that he probably was built with, as the manipulation is only at 92% now, but it's much higher than it was. And when it comes to heart surgery, every little bit counts, right down to the last detail. Our clients have a very high standard of quality, and so we don't want to have any nicks or anything on the heart. Anyway, he's doing much better now. With most of our hang-ups taken care of, I want to start working on our kill box a little bit more with some proper turrets, syringe turrets that is. These don't really cause as many issues in terms of bodily damage as the tasers, as they won't be out there convulsing in the sand anymore, and they'll just go straight to sleep. However, these new Sentry turrets do require Nutramine, whatever, but they do require it, and we don't have it. So we're gonna need to try to find some. As you can see, they would be the perfect addition to our kill box / knockout box, as they would be able to take down enemies much faster. Luckily, our compadres in space and bulk goods traders had some, and we would buy every last drop of it. And in exchange, you'll never guess what they wanted for it. Organs. They wanted organs, human leather, and human meat. I mean, that's literally all we sell. I can't keep telling you this, okay? But I will. Thanks to these little bottled beauties, we would end up being able to create about 4 or so of these syringe turrets, with some left over as well. Not only these, but we also threw in a few extra taser turrets just for good measure. As we continue growing and raids continue growing as well, there's also some space in between our taser turrets for syringe turrets or even more taser turrets, so that we should be able to handle even the largest of enemy attacks. The only problem that we face now with all this completed is where we're going to be storing all of these new patients. So, using a lot of the silver that we've made this episode, which is indeed a lot, we would end up creating some more and actually better sterile rooms out of nothing but sterile walls and also sterile flooring. Something that we should have done with the previous ones. We didn't have enough money. You probably remember that. But these are much higher quality, and every surgery that takes place in one of these new rooms for our patients should go down butter smooth. Speaking of patients, it would seem that we have many a folk just dying to come and check into our humble abodes here in our medical facilities. Hey, wait, do you guys think that pig organs, like, work the same as normal human baseliner organs, or were they sell for, never mind, we're gonna do it anyway. These poor little piggies, just as all who had come before them into our knockout box would be, in fact, knocked out by tear gas or otherwise. Since the knockout box was our primary focus, we had almost neglected to see that a small group of them had almost broken through the southern doors at the southern section of our base. I'm unsure if they had somehow seen that I had sent some of our forces down there to deal with him or what, but they quickly turned around and also would end up coming through our knockout box. And this went about as well as you could expect, just as well as it had for their other friends. We would end up having one of them getting away, but we let him escape. Reason being, if he goes back and tells the others what he saw here today, we're gonna have a lot more patients very soon. Speaking of, it looks like we're gonna have just enough with this raid alone to fill up all of our facilities, including our new ones, I believe. This little piggy went to the operating room, but this little piggy went to the operating room. Uh-oh, this one went to the morgue. I will also say one of the best things about fighting off these pig pirates is that many of them had some pretty darn good armor and weapons. Now, we weren't all that concerned with the weapons, but we could sell them. The armor, on the other hand, could be given to our sandmen. And with these armor upgrades for our sandmen, it would make their job of protecting and serving all that much easier. Especially given the fact that many of these are flak jackets over top of bulletproof vests, or just flat-out recon or marine armor in general. Always room to spare for more upgrades, of course, but this is a big step in the right direction. Of course, now that our medical facilities are completely filled up to the brim with more and more patients, though of course they be pig skins, we could of course begin our medical procedures on them, removing anything and everything that we found useful, basically just the exact same organs that we have been removing, and on occasion the Sandmen would even get to try out their new armor against a few of these patients who were being a little, impatient, I suppose you could say. There, little fellow, since you can't wait your turn and let us take care of the pig people, I guess we could go ahead and finish you up and, discharge you. More meat for the grinder, as they say. Do people say that? I said it. Blech, he seemed to have a lot of fat for a skinny fellow. Somebody will eat it, not us of course. We've heard rumor from some of the traders that there's a cannibal colony on an outermost rim planet, something like that, where they find these meats to be absolutely delectable. Perhaps it's all the fear that we instill into our patients. I'm not sure. Now you might be asking yourself, Rat Daddy, how does Cam sleep at night after committing all these atrocities, these medical procedures that are actually you being a horrific person? Well, it would appear that he sleeps like an absolute baby on a cotton and or silk bed. I mean, look at him. Good Lord, not a care in the world. And, worst of all, perhaps he's sleeping about 100 feet away or so from a warehouse that is filled to the brim with organs. If he's happy, I'm happy. Something that, at the moment, neither he or I am happy about, though, is our current defenses in terms of our walls. Those pigs earlier, a few weeks ago at least, in game time, I suppose, almost broke through one of our doors in the south, which would have been very bad for us, because that would have allowed them to flank us. So because of that, thankfully the androids have already been cutting up plenty of stone blocks that we could use. We've decided to utilize those to double up our walls, and we're going to be using steel to double up on our doors. Now, obviously this isn't going to completely prevent any attackers and or sappers from getting through our doors and walls, but it will hold them off long enough, I think, so that we can send our forces down in whatever direction that they're breaking through at. Oh, a little bit off topic, but I started trying to cook more meals because we have more patients, and apparently the androids are just filling the entire kitchen full. I think we need more shelves. Update, we built some. Also, before the video ends, I went to do quite a bit more trading with all the organs that we've been harvesting lately, so we started selling them off to another exotic goods trader in orbit, and they even had some glitter world medicine. Now, I know I was bitching earlier saying it was too expensive, but I've decided to purchase some since it will make our surgeries go a lot smoother. And I mean, we can easily afford it given how much wealth we currently have and how much we make on organs, so I don't see why not. We ended up getting that and plenty of silver as well as a few components, but the trading was not finished. Far from it, actually, as we would end up sending out a caravan to our Outlander compadres to see what they had for sale and what they would like to buy as well. I'm quite happy to report with the finishing of this trade mission, we also had 2 brand new tier 1 androids to add to our Sandmen, and they all also came back with their pockets loaded with goodies. We ended up getting some of that drug that we needed for our syringe guns, we ended up getting some medicine, some armor, and perhaps most importantly, in the pockets of one of our new androids was a bionic arm. Now, Rat, who could that be for? It's for Cam, actually. Yeah, it's for Cam. Needless to say, but I'll say it anyways, bionic parts are going to give him some pretty great manipulation and whatnot, so we're going to go ahead and do that and try to start converting him into a cyborg, baby. Not only is this only possible now thanks to our great wealth allowing us to buy bionic body parts, but it's also due to the fact that we have Sean along with us now as well, and that he is very capable of performing surgeries on his own just as he is right now to Cam. And he is indeed capable. As you can see, the surgery went down very easily, and Cam now has a bionic right arm instead of the standard fleshy one he was born with. Blah. And because of this, his manipulation is much higher, with it now being 112%. These new surgeries that he'll be performing should go down very, very smoothly, much faster, and much more precise. But I'm afraid, my friends, that will be next episode. See you later. Well, hello there, my silly, fun-loving, organ-harvesting compatriots, and welcome back to the Organ Empire. Today, we've got some pretty big things going on, like going completely automatic with our organ harvesting, and finally completing the ultimate organ farm and/or empire. But first, I think it's long overdue that we give Cam, our main surgeon and only human, a proper humble abode, and that's exactly what we're doing. Building it out of concrete. A very dense and hardened material, but not to worry, as we are going to have some very soft drapes, couches, chairs, and even a few rugs that are made out of human leather, as it is the most abundant textile to us. And once it was complete, Cam seems pretty darn content with the whole place. Look at him sleeping like a baby. Well, old buddy, old pal, I hope you got plenty of rest, because it looks like we have a group of tribespeople coming to try to kill us now, and not only that, but they appear to also be sappers, meaning they're going to come right through our walls. The thing is, though, they seem to want inside, and they seem to think that we don't want them inside, but on the contrary, we're always looking to take new patients. As a matter of fact, we even decided to crack our doors wide open, giving them an easy way in, but they're very stubborn and a bit too proud to use our doors, so they continue trying to mash through our walls, making a great big mess and a great big hole. But after they opened up the walls, they may have been a bit surprised to see, well, nothing at all, because our tear gas was blinding them and they were getting hit with several barrages of darts to knock them out, of course. Now, due to this series of less than fortunate events for their little raid plan here, it seems that they would attempt to flee. Of course, we couldn't just let them get away. They needed medical treatment, so we started tracking some of them down, shooting them in the back of the head with with our darts, knocking them out. This way we can take them back to our practice and our clinics to make sure that they're, healing up okay. Specifically, internally. As our new guest and patients are healing up a bit, we started repairing the great big hole in our wall, which literally took a few seconds and was easy peasy lemon squeezy. For those poor souls who were not lucky enough to be taken into our clinic, we would end up shoving them down our auto cutters, turning them into leather and meat. Now, there is a little secret that I've been keeping from you guys with the auto cutters. We can edit the settings a little bit, and in doing so, we can actually have the auto cutters harvest the organs for us. I could have turned this on from the very beginning, but I didn't want to make this organ farm too overpowered. I want to say thank you to everyone who left comments explaining that I could do this. I was aware since the very beginning, of course, but, I just wanted to tease y'all a little bit there. Now, instead of using some of our best medicine for every single organ individually to have it harvested, we can actually just use one medicine to euthanize our patients. Not to worry, though, this is extremely humane. Well, about as humane as it gets. Now, I mean, look at that face. Does he look like he died in pain? I don't think so. He did, though, but he doesn't know it. Now, perhaps a demonstration to see if these auto cutters really will remove the organs perfectly with surgical precision. Holy shit. Indeed they do. And quite literally with surgical precision, upholding the standards that our customers expect from our quality products. This is pretty incredible. I think our work just got a lot easier, gentlemen and ladies. Well then, now that we don't have to waste time harvesting all these by hand, we'll go ahead and just euthanize everybody. But it's a bit of a weird sentence, but we did. No, genuinely, we did. And then we stuffed them down the auto cutter, and we got their sweet, succulent internal organs for sale. It might help to think of these folks' organs like prime real estate, and we're just a great big landlord looking to cut it all out and to sell it, you know? We very quickly started filling up our organ shelves in the storage facility we built last episode. Speaking of storage, we have acquired a vast fortune, and thus we need somewhere to store all the money that we've been making. And since the organs that we sell, our products, are so incredibly important to us as well as our vast fortune, why not just store them all in the same place? So we started digging some large storage cellars to store all the silver along with some pallets, nothing too crazy. The only issue we really faced here was after we got all these dug and built was trying to get all of our silver moved from our current shitty, shabby storage facility into the much better one with a higher capacity, but we did get it done. And would you look at that, just on time, a large band of Itican pirates looking to become patients in our clinic. Don't mind if we do, ladies and gentlemen. I assume they're ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. They're very, very hairy. That makes me think, as we're beating the absolute dog shit out of them, no pun intended, because, they're animals, I'm quite glad that we're not going to be doing all these surgeries by hand. We would have to do quite a bit of shaving to get in there to the organs. Best we let the auto cutters handle it, I'd say. Of course, though, the auto cutters wouldn't work without us slicing the brainstem of these fellows first, and then also stuffing their carcasses inside, so that's something we'll need to tend to. I did want to mention, though, not only are we being more efficient by having the auto cutters go ahead and, rip out the organs or surgically remove them, whatever you want to call it, but we're also using up a lot less medicine. Not only that, but the quality of the medicine only has to be herbal to go about euthanizing our patients. So we are saving a lot of time, but also a lot of money as well. Maximum profits for minimal effort, just as the Lord intended. Not only was our butchery room beginning to get quite stuffed and full, but as were our organ storage facilities. As you can see, we are really cramming them in there. Looks like we're going to need to make some expansions very soon, especially in our butchery, but as for now, we're going to focus constructing a few planter boxes. You see, the soil here is very sandy. We're in in the desert, of course, so we need a place to grow herbal medicine away from all the rice fields that we've been growing. Though, come to think of it, we won't really be feeding patients all that often anymore, so maybe we just convert those into herbal medicine fields. We'll see. It's time to expand the butchery as promised, and we are just going to be throwing up a little bit more of a wall, opening up the area a bit more for some more auto cutters in case we get some really large raids. Initially, I thought about opening this room up exponentially, that way we have plenty of room for all the items that end up coming off of these folks who we are butchering. The thing is, though, we would have to have a map-sized butchery room, and that's just not ethical, nor is it realistic. I guess the latter of which is more important because none of this is really ethical. Since we have so many products, though, it's time for us to begin communicating once more with the Orbital Traders Hub, and a few days later, we would end up having a bulk goods trade ship in orbit, at which point we would begin trading and bartering a little bit, buying much of the steel, plasteel, advanced components, normal components, and also getting plenty of silver for our glorious high-quality organs. And in case you're wondering why we needed all these resources, well, we had big plans of building 3 more auto cutters. Now, realistically, we don't even need these, as the 3 that we currently have are perfectly fine, but I don't know, more for show, I guess? Yeah, they look cool, that's it, yeah. But our next construction projects not only looked cool, but they were very, very much needed. We're adding in many more taser turrets. By this point, we basically have the damn thing sitting on top of one another, but we need them for the larger raids that we've been experiencing. A couple of days later, we had yet another raid, so allow me to show you what I mean. You see, not only did I want these taser turrets because they could easily take down more enemies, but it seems to me that the taser turrets may just be what ends up killing a lot of the people who are raiding us, and that actually makes harvesting their organs without any real damage to them much easier. Now, technically, all these turrets are supposed to be non-lethal, but when you mix getting tased with tear gas and also some dart guns just constantly hitting you, you're bound to have quite a few deaths. And when you have a great big fire like this, some of these folks are bound to also be burned to death, even as impids. And if they don't, we can also come in and finish them off while they're lying on the ground, which I actually find to be a much better method, as it doesn't damage their organs, just as euthanizing them, and we don't even have to use medicine, the best of both worlds. The only real task we have nowadays with harvesting organs is shoving all these corpses in. Perhaps we need a stick to really poke them, to really just get them in there, but I digress. Anyway though, as you can see, we were getting a lot of organs, and since we've turned up the efficiency and what have you of these auto cutters as well, not only are we getting organs and meat and leather, but we're also getting a lot of different textiles from all the clothing and stuff that our patients have been wearing, and thus we have a lot of material. So many, in fact, that it is literally pouring out the sides of this building as we're cutting up corpses. As I mentioned earlier, it would take a gigantic-ass building to just sustain a few of these and everything that they cut up, yada yada yada, so that's why we're not doing it. And as you can see, we have literally filled up every last single shelf that we had built for organs to the brim. So many, in fact, that we would have to build many more, and we would actually end up easily filling these new shelves as well. We got a lot of organs, okay? Cam often liked to visit our organ storage facility. Some say that he goes in there late at night and rolls around on top of all of them. It's true, too. I watch him do it. Since we have all these new resources, though, especially textiles and stuff like that, we're getting from all the clothing that we're chopping up, we need a new storage facility. So we started mining out a small section up here in the northmost part of the base, where we were storing all the tainted textiles previously, just letting them rot away. That way we have more room. We're gonna do our absolute best to get all this stored properly, but I gotta level with you. If it ain't human meat, and if it ain't human leather, but most importantly, if it ain't human organs, I really do not give a shit what happens to it. unless we need it, of course, which we normally don't. We have a little bit too much of everything. At one point, we had a combat supplier visiting our base here, so we started selling them. Plenty of organs, of course, but we also sold a lot of the weapons that we were getting from these raids, as we really had no interest in such weapons. And in exchange, we would actually end up purchasing many a non-lethal weapon, like tasers, rubber shotguns, tear gas, etc., etc. Most of this we've already seen 1,000 times, all except for the dart gun there, which is going to be easily helping us tranquilize people, as well as the stun gun pistols, which is going to do the same, of course. But this also made me realize we could really use some upgrades to our non-lethal turrets, as they could use a little bit of work, so we're going to start researching a new upgrade type, which in turn will also unlock some new different types of turrets that we also look forward to using. Not to worry though, as Cam is finishing up this research, we will also be taking care of more patients out here in the knockout box, which is quickly turning into an actual kill box, I suppose. We're beginning to see a lot more corpses than unconscious folk. Not that we mind, as we have no conscience with our automated malicious machine force, who are just stuffing bodies in here and getting many a meat and leather and blah 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 blah, everything we've talked about this entire series out of these machines. And I gotta say, I think we are quickly becoming, although I think we have been for a long time, the organ capital of the world, and maybe even the galaxy, possibly even the universe, who knows? This is more organs than you will ever see anywhere else, even behind your local sketchy McDonald's in the dumpster with that weird guy wearing the face mask. Perhaps that's not a universal experience. My apologies. Anywho, we ended up finishing our research into the upgrades for non-lethal turrets, and we would waste absolutely no time adding a few of these new upgraded turrets to our roster. The ones that we decided to start building first were actually some tear gas launcher turrets. Now, as we were building these, the first one started going off and firing, and I had no idea what the hell was happening, but it looks like we had a mad boomalope in the area. Unfortunately, because of this, we almost completely killed Cam, but he survived, which is the good news, and the other good news is we now know that these canister launchers can actually fire over top of walls, helping us out with raids before they even make it here. It would seem our days of being attacked by sappers are a thing of the past. Although, even though we have all these new devices, our electronic defense systems, automated of course, we need more power. They use a lot of power, and we need more power. So we ended up building yet another geothermal generator to really indefinitely power the entire base furthermore. And adding on to that, we would also get rid of some of the old war runes that we have here inside the base, getting rid of that and ending up adding a nice battery bank in its place. We already had one, but now we have a much larger one to store even more power. Not to worry though, we hadn't forgot the name of the game, and thus we began trading off plenty of our organs we have in storage in exchange for components, silver, and we would even get a new tier 2 android. Something that I was tickled plum pink about, because we need more and more of these androids to do hauling. That's really our main task and issue that we face at the moment, so we also went out to do some trading with our neighbors to the east, and once we returned, we had an entire squad of androids. We didn't discriminate against any type of tier of android either, the reason being, of course, because a tier 1 and a tier 5 can haul corpses to the auto cutter and organs out of the auto cutter just as good as one or the other. We would also, however, end up purchasing many a bionic body part for Cam himself, with that being a bionic eye, arm, and a bionic spine as well. We immediately started performing each of these surgeries to install the new body parts, and by the time it was all said and done, he was a little bit more machine and a little bit less of a man, going right along with our android force that we have under our service. Now, of course, we didn't have to do these surgeries, but they did increase his manipulation and sight, which helped out quite a bit when it came to taking down any patients who were trying to get into the clinic a little bit too fast, making Cam quite the deadeye with his syringe gun. And of course, even better, it would also make him very good at surgeries, better than he was before. Now, obviously, this is just for the love of the game at this point, as our auto cutters really have that taken care of. That department is strictly automated nowadays, but I think Cam just really misses holding a scalpel in his hand and ripping out someone's internals, and you just don't get that type of precision detail and fun-loving, well, fun with a machine, now do you? The answer to that question? No. No, you do not. Now, I must say, though, our little base, except for a minor power issue that you might be seeing right now because I forgot to reconnect everything after building our new battery bank, is honestly complete. Everything's perfect. We have an automated organ harvesting farm, all except for bringing the dead patients in ourselves, which really can't be automated. Technically, I guess it is if you count the androids that bring them in, but I digress. What I'm really getting at is, I think it's time that we try to sell off much of our gigantic stockpile of organs. I mean, it is literally absolutely ginormous. Like, we have way too many, okay? So we are going to be making several calls to the Orbital Traders Hub, and this took a very long time to do. We were selling individual organs like this for a long time, so long in fact that I had to go into the mod settings and edit it so that we didn't have to wait 5 or 6 days for these traders to show up after requesting them, because I was getting so sick and tired of sitting around and waiting on them to show up while nothing was happening. I gotta be honest with you, in the end, it still kind of broke me a little bit, because I was trying not to take more organs in during this time, except when I had to, of course. When we got raids, we weren't out looking for people to attack and stuff, of course, and yet we still had a huge stockpile. And look at all this money. We have way too much money. I have no idea what to do with it all, and I gotta level with you. I think we're through. Our mission, our objectives, and our goals all completed. Not only did we complete them, but we entirely surpassed them. Very easily, I might add. I've never done one of these before, but this was absolutely incredible, and we have become the largest intergalactic organ trading and harvesting service on this side of the Milky Way, or whatever galaxy this is. And it is all because of you. Yes, all those screaming pig people and normal people and tribes people and people who we were ripping their organs out. That's because of you. You should really give yourself a pat on the back. Good luck sleeping tonight. Hello, I wanted to pop in at the end of the video per the usual and say thank you guys ever so much for watching this video, and of course this little mini series that I've done here on the channel. I've never done one of these organ harvesting colonies before, and I gotta say it's really fun. I see why everyone does it. I used to see these all the time, and I watched a few and I was like, you know, I want to do something different. Seems like everyone does those. I get why everyone does these. It's awesome. People love it. I love it. It's just so much fun. A little bit of quirky organ harvesting never hurt nobody, right? I also wanted to say, of course, if you guys want to get early access to episodes in these series and mini-series and stuff like that, you can always subscribe to the Rat Specialist here on my Patreon. Just gonna pump that real quick. You normally get those at least a day early, if not sometimes 3 to 4 days early, just depending on how fast I can crank out a video. If anyone is interested in that, just want to pump it a little bit as mentioned, but once again, thank you all for watching. I love you, and I will see you later. Goodbye.